Ever get that feeling? Like you're really trying to grasp something important, a big issue, but the information's just everywhere.
Oh, yeah, totally. Information overload. It's like drowning in it sometimes.
Exactly. Drowning. It's a swamp. We're here to help with that. We're going to wade right into the life and career of Paul Mashatile.
A name you've definitely heard before, especially in South African politics.
Right, and today we're going to cut through all the noise. We're going to figure out his journey, his career, and all those controversies that always seem to follow him around.
Seems like there are always controversies swirling around him.
Yeah, so let's start at the very beginning. Paul Mashatile was born, back in October 1961 in a place called Geraldsville, part of Pretoria.
Okay, so that sets the stage.
And now, fast forward to today, he's sitting pretty as the deputy president. He got there first back in March 2023.
Big role.
Huge. And then he was reappointed this past July.
So he's secured that position.
Oh, absolutely. But the road to deputy president, well, it's a long one.
Decades, right? In the ANC.
Yeah, decades in the African National Congress. Fascinating story, really.
Definitely. And that's what we're going to unpack in this deep dive. We're going to go all the way back, starting with his early days, back when he was an anti-apartheid activist.
Guiding the system.
Exactly. And then we'll trace his political career through all the years after apartheid ended.
We have to look at his time in the government, too, right? All those different roles he had.
Absolutely. We'll break those down. And of course, we can't ignore those allegations of corruption. We're going to look at those very closely.
And how the public reacted.
Uh-huh.
And the political world. It's all connected.
It is. We've got a ton of information here. We really want to paint a clear picture.
Unbiased. We just lay it all out.
That's our goal. All right, so let's rewind the clock, go back to his beginnings. I mean, his political life. It seems like it really started when he was a student at Alexandra High School.
Young and already politically active.
Right. He gets involved with the Congress of South African Students. COSAS.
So that's like his political awakening.
It seems like a crucial time for him. What do you think?
I mean, think about it. COSAS in the 1980s, they were at the forefront, mobilizing young people against apartheid.
Risky business.
Oh, yeah, big time. But Mashatile, he was clearly committed to change, even then, and that was just the start. He goes on to help establish the Alexandra Youth Congress, or AYCO.
Another group closely tied to the ANC, very active in their community.
Locally focused.
Yeah. And then, a few years later, he becomes the General Secretary for the United Democratic Front, the UDF.
From 89 to 90, right?
Right. The UDF was huge. It was like this umbrella, brought all these anti-apartheid groups together.
Unified front. Powerful.
Especially during those intense years of resistance.
And I think people sometimes forget, activism like that, it wasn't a game. There were serious consequences from the government.
Right. I mean, Mashatile himself, he was detained under the state of emergency regulations.
Harsh laws.
Designed to silence dissent.
Silence anyone who spoke up.
Yeah. He spent more than 4 years in prison.
Without a trial.
No trial. Just locked up. That's a long time. And while he was imprisoned, he went on an 18-day hunger strike. Think about that.
Wow. A statement.
It was a powerful protest against his detention, against the entire system. And what's amazing is that he still managed to study, even in prison.
I've got a postgraduate diploma in economic principles from the University of London.
Talk about resilience.
Right, and dedication.
Yeah.
So then 1990 rolls around, big changes in South Africa, political parties are unbanned.
A new era.
And Mashatile is right there, helping to rebuild both the ANC and the South African Communist Party.
Yeah.
SACP.
Back in the game, officially.
It was his role in all that rebuilding.
I mean, these organizations had been operating in secret or from exile for years. He was essential in getting their structures back up and running, on the ground. And then he took on this really important role, General Secretary of the SACP in Gauteng, for a long time.
18 years, I think,
Yeah.
from 92 to 2010.
Right. That kind of long-term involvement shows how deep his commitment was to both the ANC and the SACP.
They're very closely linked, those two.
They are. Two arms of the same movement, really. And it was all happening in Gauteng. That's a really crucial province, politically, economically.
Part of it.
In a lot of ways. And within the ANC itself, Mashatile really climbed the ladder, held a lot of key positions, particularly in Gauteng.
He's moving up.
He was. First, he served as the provincial secretary. Then he was the deputy chairperson, all within the ANC's structures in Gauteng.
Gaining experience, building a base.
Exactly. And then, this was a big one, he was elected as the provincial chairperson for Gauteng.
The top spot.
The top spot. Held that position for a full decade, from 2007 to 2017.
That's significant.
10 years leading the ANC in a powerful province like Gauteng. That shows real power and influence. It really solidified his position in the party.
Like a kingmaker almost.
I mean, yeah, you could see it that way. And all that time in Gauteng, it paved the way for him to take on bigger roles at the national level.
So he goes from leading Gauteng to a national position within the ANC. How does that happen?
It was a natural progression almost. In December 2017, he's elected as the ANC Treasurer General. That's a big deal. It means he's in charge of the party's finances. A lot of responsibility, a lot of power, too.
Control the money, control the party.
Something like that. And then in January 2022, he steps in as the Acting Secretary General, another major leadership role. This one's all about the day-to-day running of the party.
Keeping the machine going.
Exactly. And all of this leads up to December 2022. He's elected ANC Deputy President. So yeah, a very clear rise through the ranks over many years. More responsibility, more influence.
And all along the way, he's not just involved in the party, he's holding positions in the government too, especially in Gauteng. What kind of roles are we talking about?
He's got a long record in government, over 20 years of it. From 1996 to 2018, he was an MEC.
Member of the Executive Council.
Right, in the Gauteng provincial government. Held a bunch of different portfolios. First, it was transport and public works, then safety and security.
Keeping the province running?
Yeah, essential stuff. Then came a long stint as the MEC for human settlements, housing, infrastructure development, huge issues. And finally, he served as the MEC for Finance and Economic Affairs.
That one sounds pretty important.
Oh, it is. It means he was responsible for the province's budget, economic planning, all that. And when he was in charge of the finances, he was a big part of getting some major projects off the ground.
Big projects? Like what?
Well, for starters, the GO train.
That's that high-speed rail line, right?
Yep. Connects Pretoria and Johannesburg to the airport. Huge infrastructure project. And he was involved in the very early planning stages.
Laying the groundwork.
Exactly. And then there's the Gauteng Shared Services Center, the GSSC. That was all about centralizing the province's budget, streamlining things, trying to improve efficiency.
Sounds good in theory.
Yeah, but it's had its fair share of criticism over the years. We'll dig into that a little later.
Okay, good to know. So, besides all that, he also served as the premier of Gauteng for a while, right?
He did, from 2008 to 2009. It was a short period, but it gave him experience at the very top level, running a whole province.
The top job.
It is. And after that, he went back to the national scene, served as Minister of Arts and Culture under President Zuma from 2010 to 2014.
So he's really been all over. Provincial government, national government, different portfolios.
He's got a lot of experience under his belt.
He does. Which brings us to where he is now. Deputy President, huge position. What does that actually entail? What does he do?
A lot. He's the leader of government business in Parliament. That means he's making sure the government's agenda is moving forward, getting laws passed, all that.
Keeping the wheels turning.
Yeah, he's the guy in charge of that. He also chairs a bunch of important national bodies, like the South African National AIDS Council, SANAC, and the Human Resource Development Council.
Those are big issues.
Definitely. And he's also been active on the international stage. He's a special envoy to South Sudan. That's all about trying to bring peace and stability to the region.
So he's got his hands full.
He does. And it seems like his main focus right now is tackling some of the biggest issues facing South Africa. Land reform, service delivery, especially at the local level. Lots of problems with municipalities.
Right. Not functioning the way they should.
Exactly. And he's pushing for the district development model, which is all about getting different levels of government to work together better at the local level.
Trying to get everyone on the same page.
That's the idea. It's interesting, too, how he's promoting South Africa to the rest of the world, especially trying to get foreign investment.
I remember that speech he gave in London to the South African Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, that was just last October 2024. He was really pushing South Africa as a great place to invest. Safe, stable. He talked a lot about the Government of National Unity, the GNU.
The new political arrangement.
Right. He's very confident that it'll lead to economic growth, that it'll be good for the country.
Let's shift gears for a second. Talk about his personal life. He has a family, right?
Yeah.
2 sons, 2 daughters. He lost his wife a few years ago, Manzi Ellen Mashatile, back in July 2020.
Sad situation.
And then there was that incident when he collapsed while giving a speech in Zanin.
That was September 2024. Scary moment. Turned out to be heat-related.
Lightheadedness.
Yeah. Luckily, he recovered quickly.
That's good to hear. But we can't talk about Paul Mashatile without talking about the elephant in the room.
The allegations.
Right, all those accusations of corruption, rumors swirling around him. It's a big part of his story.
It is, and it's really important to be careful here, to stick to the facts. Some of these accusations, they've been investigated, he's been cleared.
Officially.
But then there are others that are just out there, unsubstantiated.
Unproven.
But the thing is, whether they're true or not, these allegations have an impact.
They shape how people see him.
They do. So let's go through some of the specific allegations. One of the biggest ones early on was about the Alexandra Renewal Project.
Back when he was the MEC for Human Settlement.
Right. It was this big initiative meant to improve living conditions in Alexandra.
Makes sense.
But then these claims came out about a huge amount of money. Our $1.3 billion. Gone missing. Wasted. Or maybe something worse.
Misappropriated, that's a lot of money.
It is. It led to a big investigation. The public protector got involved, and the South African Human Rights Commission, the SAHRC.
Looking into the whole thing.
Trying to figure out what happened.
But what did they find? How did Mashatile respond?
Mashatile and the other officials involved, they completely denied it. They said that amount of money was never allocated to the project in the first place. And they said no money went missing.
Strong denial.
Yeah. And Mashatile actually sued the leaders of the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, for defamation, for our $2 million.
Because they implied he was involved in corruption.
Right. They were accusing him of being part of this so-called Alex Mafia. It's this term that gets thrown around.
A group of powerful people from Alexandria.
Yeah, with connections. Critics said Mashatile was part of it, that he was using his influence for personal gain.
Shady dealings.
Exactly. But the Gauteng Integrity Commissioner back then, Jules Browd, he looked into all that.
He investigated those specific allegations.
And in the end, he cleared Mashatile. Said there was no proof of any wrongdoing.
So that one went nowhere.
Well, it didn't stick. But there's another issue that comes up a lot. The Gauteng Shared Services Center. The GSSC, remember we talked about that?
Yeah, the one he helped set up. Supposed to make things more efficient.
Right. Centralize the budget. Streamline everything.
Good intentions.
In theory. But critics have said it actually became less efficient.
And maybe even created new ways for corruption to happen.
More opportunities to take advantage of the system.
That's a big problem.
It is. But it's important to note there's no clear evidence linking Mashatile himself to any specific corruption within the GSSC.
Just criticism of the system itself.
Right. Now, there was also that accusation about him misusing a government credit card.
That sounds bad.
It does, but that one was investigated too by the Gauteng Integrity Commissioner.
Same guy who looked into the Alex Mafia stuff.
Right, and he cleared Mashatile of any wrongdoing in that case as well.
Interesting.
But there are other allegations that are harder to shake off, the ones about the loans from the Gauteng Partnership Fund, the GPF.
To his son-in-law.
Right. Those have raised a lot of red flags. It's about loans that were given to Mr. Nonquelo for a housing project that never actually happened.
So the money went somewhere, but not to the project.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting. A whistleblower reported this to the GTF board back in 2018.
Years ago.
Years ago, warning them about all kinds of problems, lack of transparency in board appointments, questionable payments to a law firm connected to Mashatile, and weird board fees. Too high. Irregular.
So all sorts of shady stuff going on.
Yeah. And News 24 did a big report on this in June 2024, pointing out that those early warnings were basically ignored.
Swept under the rug.
Pretty much. And this whole thing connects to another big story, the one about Mashatile's son-in-law buying a really expensive house in Cape Town.
A mansion, I think they called it.
Yeah. Our $28.9 million in Constantia. Super fancy area.
And the DA has been all over this.
They have. What they're pointing out is Mr. Nonquelo's company still owes the Gauteng Department of Human Settlements a ton of money, like our $7 million, from that failed housing project we talked about.
The one in Alexandra.
Right. The DA is saying this is textbook nepotism.
Family favors.
Yeah. They're accusing Mashatile of using his power to help his son-in-law, maybe even overlooking that debt.
Turning a blind eye.
Possibly. And it's not just the projects and the money. There are also these broader allegations about Mashatile's connections to certain businessmen.
People with political ties.
Right. News 24 did a report on this back in August 2023. They said there were 4 businessmen bankrolling Mashatile's former lover, paying for her car, stuff like that.
Keeping her in the lifestyle she was accustomed to.
Exactly. And then you've got all this stuff swirling around on social media. Unverified claims. People saying Mashatile's friends are getting sweetheart deals with Eskom, the state power company,
Right.
getting those juicy coal contracts.
That's huge.
Right. And there are even claims that Mashatile himself has stayed at properties owned by these guys, specifically Edwin Sodi.
Now, that's a name that comes up in a lot of corruption scandals.
Whoa, yeah, big time. News 24 also reported on this. They said Sodi's company got $134 million to build houses in Deep Sloot, but no houses were ever built.
Sounds familiar.
Right. And this was when Mashatile was in charge of that department. And apparently that Deep Sloot thing, just part of a much bigger deal. Sodi's companies got a total of $828 million for various projects.
Wow.
It's important to say, though, a lot of the stuff online, it's just rumors.
No proof.
Right. Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But it shows you how people perceive him. The suspicion is definitely there.
It's hard to ignore.
It is. And then, just last month, September 2024, News 24 reported on something else. Investec. Big financial institution. They cut ties with a bunch of Mashatile's associates.
What happened there?
Apparently, they were looking into some transactions, millions of rands, moving through accounts connected to these guys.
Suspicious activity.
And the timing is interesting. It was all happening when Mashatile was the ANC Treasurer General.
2017 to 2022.
Yep. So it just adds another layer to the whole thing. Makes you wonder.
Definitely raises some eyebrows. So with all these allegations and controversies, what has the reaction been from the political world, from the public?
It's been a mixed bag. The DA, the main opposition party, they've been very vocal, super critical. Back in February 2024, they went straight to President Ramaphosa. They gave him a whole dossier, all their evidence, all their concerns.
And they wanted Mashatile removed.
Oh, yeah. They demanded it, said he had to go. But Ramaphosa didn't do anything right away, so the DA took it further.
They filed criminal charges.
Yep. Accusing Mashatile of breaking the Executive Members Ethics Act and saying he wasn't transparent about his finances.
Hiding something.
Potentially. The DA has also been slamming Ramaphosa for not doing those lifestyle audits he promised. They're saying if he had, Mashatile's problems would come out sooner.
So they're hitting him from both sides.
They are. And then there's Public Interest SA, a civil society group.
Fighting corruption.
Right. They called on Mashatile back in June 2023, said he needed to address all these allegations about state capture, about corruption.
They wanted answers.
They did. They said he needed to be accountable, especially in such a high position.
Makes sense.
It does. But Mashatile's office, they've been denying everything, releasing statements, saying he's committed to his oath, to the Constitution, to fighting corruption.
So he's saying he's innocent.
Exactly. He's saying his priority is service delivery, fixing those broken municipalities. He says all these accusations are just distraction.
Political games.
Yeah. But if you go online to social media, you see a lot of suspicion. People are talking about his ties to Sodi, about those Eskom contracts. It hasn't got away.
It's still there?
It is. Even if a lot of it is just rumors, it shows that the public trust is damaged.
So where does that leave us? We've heard the whole story, the activism, the political career, the controversies. It's complicated.
It is. It's like we see this pattern with a lot of ANC leaders. It's this duality. On one hand, they fought against apartheid. They sacrificed a lot.
They're heroes.
In a way, yeah. But then on the other hand, you have these corruption allegations. It's a problem that just won't go away.
Like a shadow.
Yeah. And the fact that some allegations have been investigated and cleared while others haven't, it makes you wonder.
About the motivations behind them.
Exactly. Maybe some of it is politically motivated. I mean, think about it. Mashatile is a powerful guy.
Yeah.
He could be aiming for the very top job.
President.
And the DA, they're the opposition. It's in their interest to make the ANC look bad.
To highlight any corruption they can find.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all part of their strategy. And all of this is happening against the backdrop of what's going on in South Africa.
The big picture.
Right. There's a real crisis of trust in the government. People are disillusioned. And South Africa's ranking on that Corruption Perceptions Index, it keeps getting worse.
Not a good look.
No. And when a politician has been in power for a long time, like Mashatile, especially in a province like Gauteng,
Where there's been so much corruption.
right, they're going to be under a microscope, every move scrutinized. But to be fair, Mashatile does have his supporters. They say he's competent. They point to his track record, things like the Go Train, and his focus on service delivery.
They say he gets things done.
They do. So it's not black and white. It's messy.
It always is. So, wrapping things up, what's the bottom line here? What have we learned about Paul Mashatile?
Well, there's no doubt he's been a major player in South African politics and government. for a long time. He went from activist to deputy president. It's a remarkable journey. But he's also been dogged by these allegations of corruption, mismanagement of funds, nepotism, shady relationships with businessmen. Some of it's been disproven, some of it's just rumors, but it all creates this perception, this cloud of suspicion. And that's a problem for the ANC as a whole. They've been struggling with that for years, this idea that they're corrupt. And for Mashatile, it's a huge challenge. He wants to maintain public trust. He might even want to be president one day. But these allegations make that really hard.
So we've laid it all out. The good, the bad, the complicated. It's up to you to decide what you think.
Yeah. Paul Mashatile, a veteran of the anti-apartheid struggle, now facing serious questions about his integrity.
It really makes you think about South African politics.
Yeah.
And what it takes to lead.
What it takes to earn the public's trust and keep it.
Big questions, no easy answers.
That's for sure.
We hope this deep dive is giving you a better understanding of who Paul Mashatile is and all the controversies around him.
It's a starting point. We encourage you to keep digging, read more, explore different perspectives.
There's a lot more to uncover.
And we'll be here to guide you through it.
Thanks for joining us on this